All right, let's get our Facebook folks in here before it's officially time to go and pray like hell that the internet holds up. Good coffee sip. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. And what a fun weekend of football we had. I am Nick Kendell and joined by Scott Kennedy. Scott, how you doing? Happy Monday to you.
Thank you to you as well. And yeah, it was a great weekend. It started off that Seahawks and Jaguars game. I think I turned it off in the second quarter and 24-0. And then I got the alerts. I don't normally have alerts on, but I keep them on for the NFL. And they said 10-point game. I'm like, well, let's turn this back on and see how it goes. So I had a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's say hello to some folks in here coming in. We got Bradley Conger saying, good morning. Broncos country should get interesting this week in regards to coaching hire. Hurry up and pound your coffee. Appreciate it. Ethan coming in. Good afternoon, gents. Good to see you. We got Isra Teague saying, good afternoon, all. Colin Wood coming in saying, once again, the Chargers charged and the Vikings viked. Yeah, God, what a... Scott, you sent me that message too. I was thinking that in the game too. Like, this is going to be the first game this year where they're going to lose a 1-point game.
Oh, as soon as they showed the graphic that they were 11-0 in one-score games, I'm like, they're losing this one. So I put that out in the second quarter. I'm like, Vikings are going to lose this by one score, aren't they? Yeah, I mean, it was. I'm not going to call it scripted, but I do believe in in the football gods, and they have a sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And some teams are more blessed than others, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we start talking Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints as well.
Yeah, 100%. But enjoyable week of football. Malcolm Brown, hello from Homer, Alaska. Hope you're doing well, Malcolm. Appreciate you coming in both shows this morning. Got our guy Philip Hagginson coming in here. Do you think that's a Danish name? Hagginson? The double A's?
Is that where it is? I know I would go Hogginson on that one.
Hogginson?
But Philip, we love you either way. Apologies. We keep names like Scott and Nick, and we don't do the names so well. So
appreciate you, Philip, coming in and saying good morning. I hope you're doing well. We got our guy Darius Simmons coming in saying good morning, guys. Every wildcard game was great. I feel like the Broncos couldn't compete with any of these teams. Well, the Broncos did compete with almost all of these teams. I mean,
the Falcons beat both the 49ers and the Seahawks. So it's not sorry, Nick, but that's what the NFL wants. The NFL wants the parity. It's very small margins. They want you to believe, and they want you to be in the playoff race until week 16, so everybody's still in it. Everybody feels like they have a chance. The small margins that we say that the standings don't lie. The small margins add up over the course of a year, and the better teams win. But yeah, you're not that far off from those teams. You're not.
Yeah, I mean, Broncos went in and lost last second to the Ravens. They competed to the bitter end with the Chargers. They beat the Chargers. They beat the Jags, beat the 49ers. Now, granted, it's a totally different 49ers team in that pre and post Christian McCaffrey era. But yeah, Broncos are, there's, I think, the select few elite teams, and even them, they played pretty darn close football this week. So, like the Bills, I mean, gosh, the Skylar Thompson barely losing to the Bills in Buffalo. I mean, shocking games this week, but a lot of fun. Michael Ronquillo coming in here saying, good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos. Thank you so much, Michael. We appreciate you coming in, kicking us off here this morning. Our guy Kevin Gray's also in the house. Morning, Broncos country. Nick and Scott. Can't wait to see who the new head coach is going to be. Tyler Smith. Tyler, you got a game tonight. Tyler Smith, the first-round pick of the Dallas Cowboys last year. Obviously not this Tyler, I would assume. But good morning to you, Tyler. We appreciate you coming in. Happy MLK Day, everybody. Happy to see Jeremy in here saying morning, boys. I personally want Harbaugh, but I definitely don't want to face Sean Payton in Los Angeles twice a year in the division. And getting us kicked off here with the conversation. So obviously some news around the NFL in terms of the head coaching cycle and vacancies that could impact the Broncos, one positive and one negative. I wrote an article on Friday in regards to one of them, and big news, Sean McVay is going to be back in the Los Angeles area coaching the Rams once again. There's a lot of rumors that he was going to step away to do a TV gig, spend more time with his, I believe, now wife, who is Ukrainian and has family in Ukraine. And I think this has been a tough time from her, is my understanding. So a lot of talk that he was going to walk away from coaching football for a little bit, creating a head coaching vacancy in Los Angeles. And we've heard time and time again that Sean Payton would love to stay in Los Angeles. He's really loved that area. He lives there now working for Fox. So if the Rams opened up, I think there's a good chance that Sean Payton was going to be coaching the Rams. So that one's back. Take that one off the list. However, the other one that's concerning here now, after the Mike Williams injury, playing the starters debacle in a losing game and a meaningless game, and now the 27-point choke job that was the Chargers versus the Jaguars, you could have the Brandon Staley and the Chargers position come open. So another Los Angeles position opening, and potentially the more the one that's more favorable roster-wise, because you have a Justin Herbert, some good defensive pieces, some good young offensive pieces as well. I mean, that's a good Chargers roster on paper. I mean, we talked about it this season, probably one of the top 6 most talented rosters entering this year. They underachieved for all things considered, and then going out like they did, maybe they'll look to go elsewhere.
Yeah, it took them a while, to get going. And then once they started playing well, they really started playing well. Then losing to the Broncos and losing Mike Williams was pretty inexcusable. And then to blow that lead again, is that spot going to be open? Now, they've got the vote of confidence article, making the rounds today, as Justin Herbert says, we're all behind Staley, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't matter. What's going to happen there? Could it be open? If he gets through today, I think he'll get through, or do you kick the tires on someone else? You need to have a replacement in mind, and I guarantee they're making phone calls, and Sean Payton's agent's phone is probably ringing from the Chargers. What would it take? But I think they would want to know that they've got him before they would pull the trigger on firing Staley.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out, but definitely he deserves a lot of blame for that. If anything, the Chargers need to fire their offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, and add some pass catching explosiveness to that offense. But that's
or don't get your number 1 wide receiver hurt in a meaningless game in week 18.
That would help a lot. They also lost their left tackle before the season even started, who was incredible last year. One of the names that was really connected to the Broncos in that draft class, Rashawn Slater. So he'll be back next year. It's going to be interesting. We got BK saying, good morning, everyone from Seattle, everyone. Well, good morning. I'm going to high five you from the university area over here in Seattle myself. Good to see you, BK. Looks like we're not going to get rain today. So hopefully you have today off and can get outside. It's still wet, but when it's not raining, it's still a reason to get outside and celebrate. Ryan Slavic, and thank you so much for the $2 super, BK. Ryan Slavic, good morning, everyone. I think it's going to be Sean Payton. IDK, I just have a gut feeling. So it seems like we've been being yo-yoed here, and that's just kind of the 24 hours news cycle. But, Jim Harbaugh's going back. Oh, he's not going back. Sean Payton doesn't want to come to Denver. Oh, he maybe does want to come to Denver. Oh, Los Angeles is open. The Cardinals are interested, blah, 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 blah. Scott, right now, it's 6:48 where I'm at, 1:16, 2023. What does your gut say? We have Ryan saying it's Sean Payton. Do you have any gut inkling right now?
I've told y'all before, when I'm pretty good at this stuff until I become emotionally involved, and then emotions throw out logic, and they don't mix. Mm-hmm. And my emotional attachment is to this community and Broncos country, not necessarily to the Denver Broncos. So what I want to have happen for this team is I've said Sean Payton would be my number 1 candidate, assuming it didn't cripple you with what you would have to give up to get him. If all things being equal, he would be number 1, but it's not equal. So what would it take to get him? You've seen the difference coaching can make. If I'm getting an elite coach for a first-round draft pick, that is nothing. It's pennies on the dollar for what you can get if you get the right coach. A first-round pick, especially one in the late 30s, it could be the 32nd, 31st pick, for goodness sakes, this year. Yeah. Yes, please. Now, Nick has said all over and over again, you're not touching my 2024 first-round pick, and I agree with him on that one. But, can I send you a pick and a boatload of cash and get Sean Payton? To me, that would be number 1. I am a cynic at heart, and I would say Harbaugh stays at Michigan. I don't know what Payton's going to do. The Denver Broncos would be a great opportunity. You've got the ownership, you've got the money, you've got the franchise. It is a top job in the NFL. People, why would they go to the dumpster fire? Because it's a 10-year job. It's not next year. He'd be coming in with low expectations. To answer your question, I would love to see Payton in the Denver Broncos, assuming it doesn't cost you too much. But again, if it costs you too much, if you're mortgaging your future to get the coach doesn't want to go there. It's like, wait a minute, I'm going to this team to try and help them rebound, and I'm not going to have first-round picks and a second-round pick for the next 2 years. Well, that That doesn't work for me. How am I supposed to get this team back on track? I don't know, Nick. How's that? My gut tells me Dan Quinn because I'm a cynic. I don't want Dan Quinn for y'all. I want Payton or Harbaugh.
Yeah, my gut right now says Sean Payton, but there's a number of guys. I think a lot of these ones would be really good candidates. I know that Broncos country has been talked down of having first-time head coaches, but I don't know how you can watch the 49ers and not be interested in D'Amico Ryans. There's a former high-level NFL player. Their defense plays as smart, as fast, as connected as any defense in football right now. This isn't the no-fly zone back there. Their best number one defensive back is Jadarius Ward, or I think a 5th-round draft pick in first team All-Pro. But I think that's because of coaching and getting guys in the right spot. And Malafanga, I think is the name, the safety for the. I could be incorrect. I remember him at USC, fun player. But
pass rush cures a lot of ills on defense, man. We've said that a zillion times. What's the best pass defense in the world? A quarterback under duress. I usually say on his ass, but under duress. And Jeremy, to put a bow on the Staley talk, said if the Chargers rested and did the exact same thing and choke a big lead, we'd all be saying they're dumb to rest their starters. Not this guy. I don't change in hindsight what I thought, and I wouldn't have let those guys see the second half in the Broncos game. No way, no how. End of story. Now, whether I end up being right or wrong based on what I think at the time, I remember what I would think and who I would take and how I rated this guy. I thought it was a mistake to have those guys play in the second half. Whether that was a difference or not, it wouldn't have changed how I would say, or my reaction would have been the same.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody coming in and contributing to the chat. Happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody. Got Andrew Lampy coming in saying good morning. Appreciate you, Andrew, over on Facebook and coming in with the support. If you guys cannot or not willing to come in with the financial support, which is totally understandable, but one thing you can do, which would be really helpful to us, click the thumbs up on the way in. We got way more eyeballs than thumbs up, and that helps us a heck of a lot. It takes 1 second. And if obviously we want to earn that for you, so get some questions in here. But if you would, drop the thumbs up. We'd appreciate the heck out of that. Good morning to you, Andrew. Dave Glassman in the house.
Stars, Andrew. And real quick on Jeremy, real quick, he says, Peyton wouldn't be coming here with low expectations. Have you met this fan base? Yes, I have. And there's a lot of them saying Jerry Rosburg should get a chance at head coach after almost beating Kansas City and going 1-1. And maybe Justin Alton should stay and all this type of stuff. I have seen it. And the expectations are in the tank right now. How long that would last, if you start playing competent football and you win 6 games next year, you're okay. You're okay. Instead of, what was it, 4 this year or 5? What was the final record?
5-12.
5-12.
Mm-hmm.
You win 7 games, you go 7-10 and start showing you're on the ascendancy. He'd be just fine. He'd be just fine next year. So yes, I have met this fan base. I've met most of the fan bases around the country, and fans are fans, man. They don't change a lot.
Yeah, 100%. And thanks to everybody hitting the thumbs up there as I call for a little action there. Dave Glassman with the hearts. Good to see you, Dave. Sunny Days at the hearts and the coffee and the thumbs up. Good to see you. Our guy Dom Harmillo coming in out there in Albuquerque saying good morning, Broncos country. Good to see you. We got our curly hair gang, Jay Roper, coming in saying, do the rumors of Jim Harbaugh staying at Michigan if they make him a top paid coach? And if not, he could turn to Denver scary. Do those rumors concern me? Yes, I do, because it's one less option there for the Broncos. Jim Harbaugh is still my number one because of the draft pick compensation that you'd have to give up. I also think his style of play, and he's built that style of play everywhere he's gone, would translate well to where the NFL is at right now. And I think it also maximizes what you have in Russell Wilson. So Jim Harbaugh is my number one still. Definitely be concerned because Michigan, especially with their president, Santa Ono, I believe is the name, getting involved makes me think that this could be tougher for Denver to bring him in here, but we'll see. I mean, you think that there? So after, was it Thursday? You had all this information about Harbaugh and the president getting involved and whatnot, and then nothing happened. Crickets.
It's a long weekend.
It's a long weekend. Yeah, the crickets though. After that, and then yesterday, you have Broncos very much still in the Harbaugh conversation. If we get to the 17th and he comes in for that personal interview, I think it's very possible to happen. But we'll see how these next 48 hours.
Those are some of my favorite responses in chats. Harbaugh's going to Michigan. It's a done deal. Really? Then how come he's still interviewing? While he's still out there, you still have a chance. Yep. But I've said all along, Jay, 50-50 at best that he even leaves Michigan. Can Michigan compete financially with the Denver Broncos? Yeah, they can. They could pay him $50 million. They won't, though.
No.
That's the thing. The backlash from taking him over 15 from the Michigan fans, alum, college football in general, and the media, if they took him over 15, it would be high. The backlash would be high if he hits 15, but understandable. You live with that. You go above 15 million for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, and you're going to have a PR problem. It's not that they can't afford it. These universities' football programs are worth billions too. They could pay him $50 million and not blink an eye. They won't. They won't do that. They won't get into a bidding contest with the Broncos.
And not to get political on this or anything like that, I'm not sure how this could impact it, but if you're paying that much money for your head coach and how these athletic departments are for a football coach, I wonder if that has any correlation or there's anything you have to consider with Title IX for these universities. It's one of the big reasons that there's some concerns about these collectives and these universities, because the collectives are funneling money to football and then the money isn't being evenly distributed between all the athletic programs.
Right now, it's just scholarships with Title IX.
Just scholarships for the Title IX?
Scholarships. And it's a little unfair for the non-revenue sports for the boys, because there is no football. It's 85. I got to find 85 scholarships for women before I can do anything else on the football, on the men's side of things. So, it was when I first started doing it 15 years ago, it was 1 in every 100 male athletes, high school athletes, gets a scholarship. But for women, it was 1 in 10. So yeah, I got a boy and a girl. You bet your ass I'm taking advantage of that. Do I necessarily call that equality? No, I don't. It really put a crimp in wrestling, soccer, baseball, all the non-revenue sports for men, because there is no football 85 scholarships equivalent on the women's side of things. So, football to me is its own beast. It should be cut off. It's funding everybody else. That I think then you're talking equality. But hey, what do I know?
It's interesting stuff. A lot of different aspects to that. Kevin G coming in saying, "Morning, fellas from Cincinnati. Fun game last night, man. Sam Hubbard returning that one back. That was what a momentum swing. With Judy being the clear-cut number one, should we think about trading Sutton for picks for DeAndre Hopkins? The money-wise, with the dead cap you're bringing in and then bringing in DeAndre Hopkins, who's going to want a new contract, I don't see that making much sense for the Broncos with where they're at. Sutton's going to be here next year. I think the way his contract is set up too, it's easy to move on after next season. But right now, the amount of dead cap hit, probably not worth creating the open spot on the roster. So I like where your head's at, Kevin. I think just from the financial side of things, probably a year off on the targeting of moving Cortland Sutton. I think you're probably going to see the Broncos might bring in a wide receiver this offseason. Maybe KJ Hamler gets moved, but I'm not thinking. I think you can pretty much bank that your top three will be, barring injury issues here crimping up, but Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, and Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, Kevin, I would like to see, again, wouldn't we all, a healthy group of receivers, a healthy group of weapons? What did injuries do to this team? Losing Patrick before we even got started, losing Javonte Williams pretty early. I want to see what this team can do with a healthy set before I start moving pieces like that with Sutton. But I want to see them all. I was reading this one real quick because Kenny came in, and we'll say it to Amy real quick. Amy says, "Good morning, Broncos country" on Facebook. So good morning, Amy. But KB82, Kenny Booker comes in and asks a question for me that I have no answer for. I've been out of the recruiting business for so long. I don't know the players at all anymore. I think the last class I really was invested in was probably 2015, before I got really fully into the admin side of things. But he says, "Good morning, Nick and Scott. Question for Scott. What's the chance Cormani McClain goes to Colorado to give CU the best pair of cornerbacks in the country?" I don't know who Cormani McClain is. No idea. Is he a high school kid? No clue. I don't know where he's from or anything along those lines anymore, dude. I apologize.
I have no idea. Probably a recruit right now. I don't really follow the recruiting.
Hit up Brandon Huffman on Twitter and tell him Scout Kennedy
Iowa.
Sent you.
What was that?
I said hit up Brandon Huffman on Twitter and tell him Scout Kennedy sent you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. From typically, unless they're getting directly tied to Iowa, I'm not really into the recruiting stuff. I will follow the NIL and like the top quarterback stuff, like the top 10 level guys, and that hasn't been Colorado, but things are changing, so we'll see. Patrick Goltzy coming in here out there in Oahu saying, good morning, gents. Good to see you, Patrick. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you enjoyed all the good football out there. We got our guy Joey Grubbs coming in saying, good morning. Any timeline on when we might have a head coach? Broncos can start interviewing people live in person, always live, but in person on the 17th. So things will start opening up then. I'm not sure what the 49ers winning this week has to do with or what it impacts D'Amico Ryan's candidacy, and also with the Cowboys playing tonight. If they win, what does that mean for Dan Quinn? But they're going to start bringing people in and interviewing them. So will be interesting to see. We've had 3 live interviews so far for the Broncos, 3 in-person interviews with obviously Ejiro Evero. We've also had Jim Caldwell and David Shaw. So we'll have some more coming up here for the Broncos in due time.
Miguel Santistevan is another cynic here. One after my own heart. He says, good morning, fellas. I hope the Broncos get in the same situation like when they thought they were going to get Cousins and ended up with Keenum. I feel like it's going to happen again. I think you're going after 2 more proven commodities. To me, Cousins would still feel like a door prize. The money that he got to me was insane. It didn't match the quarterback for me. No offense, Kirk Cousins. He's been really good. I think he's probably, from a media perception or from a Q rating perspective, he might be a little underrated, but from a payments standpoint, he's overrated. I mean, I think he had the highest cap hit in the NFL last year. So I think you were probably okay dodging that bullet, maybe. Cousins is a good quarterback, and you would have had competency at the position for this whole time. But still, appreciate you coming in with the stars, Miguel. And Clinton Watson coming in with a super sticker. Thank you, Clinton. Appreciate you thinking of this morning and being part of the show. Lord of Liberty. Speaking of a cynic, Lord was mad yesterday, super angry about everything. So hope you're feeling better this morning. But he says the final 4 QBs in the AFC are Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Trevor Lawrence. How do we honestly stack up against that? And Nick, I want to go over to the NFC side of things because we talk about, the exceptions to the rule. So if I read Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lawrence, I look at draft picks, top 10, 1, top 10, 1. Okay. And then I go over to the NFC side of things, and I've got the 49ers versus whoever they play, Cowboys or Buccaneers, is kind of the exception to the rule game, because you're going to have a non-first round quarterback, but everybody else in the playoffs has a top 10 pick at quarterback for the most part, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 49ers invested a top 10 pick in Trey Lance. He's not playing, obviously, but they did make the investment, so that's a weird little asterisk to add to that one. Tampa Bay, weird one also, because 6th-round pick. Oh, we all know Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick, but he's the GOAT. You have Jalen Hurts, 2nd-round pick, and then Daniel Jones, I think 6th overall. But
yeah, he was a top 10. So Hurts is in there too. So what do we have? 8 or 9 teams left, and we're talking about 7 of them are investing top 10 picks. Yep. But you do have one of those exceptions on the roster. You do have a Dak Prescott, not quite Tom Brady, but you do have one of those exceptions, a guy who didn't go in the first round, but has 9 Pro Bowls next to his name. Mm-hmm. So you need him to start playing like a 9-time Pro Bowler. Can he do it again? We've seen that he's not done. Will he be the best that he has ever been? Maybe, maybe not. But I don't think he's done. How do you compete against that? You also build up around him. First off, start in the offensive line. Start beefing up the trenches and building a system that can be quarterback independent a little bit more than what we saw to start the season. Defense in a running game wins a lot of games.
And as far as, Lord of Liberty, I don't think he's incorrect with his little bit of doomsday here. The AFC is going to be freaking hard for the next 5-10 years. Didn't even list Justin Herbert in there because they cannibalize themselves, Lawrence versus Herbert. That's 5 quarterbacks. If there was a redraft of the entire league right now, the first 5 players would be 5 quarterbacks in the AFC. I'm very confident in saying that. It would be Mahomes number 1. Then you'd have an assortment of different opinions on Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Lawrence. I believe that. So it's going to be tough in the AFC for a little bit. We'll see what happens here. There's a much better young up-and-coming talent at quarterback in the AFC than in comparison to the NFC. It's going to be tough. No other way around it. You're just going to have to be able to win in the margins. Hopefully you get a good quarterback and get some health, better coaching. I mean, there are multiple ways to win. I mean, we're talking about how good the AFC is at quarterback, but you look across the way at San Francisco, they have Brock Purdy out there, and he has it, easy street. Only 2 tight window throws in that entire game. The 49ers defense throttling down on the Seahawks in the second half. So still a team game. If you have a quarterback, that's the ultimate cheat piece. The other thing here about those quarterbacks that you mentioned there is 4 of those top 5 that I was talking about there are still on the rookie contracts. Those teams are going to change dramatically after those guys are getting paid $50 million a year, $60 million a year. Still a little bit further off there from Trevor Lawrence, but I mean, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and I guess Josh Allen already got paid, but those 2 guys are going to get paid massive contracts coming up, and that's going to totally change how those teams are built. So don't worry, there's going to be a little bit of a bounce back against those teams because you cannot live forever on that crazy cheap rookie contract.
A cheat code, as you like to say.
It really is.
Colin Wood comes in and says, why are my posts being rejected? I just looked at the chat on YouTube. I don't see anything being held for review, Colin, and this one came through. So don't know what to tell you, brother.
Be better. That's what I got to say. No, thank you, Colin. We're just teasing. Mandingo Dan, hello from Ecuador. Good to see you. Mandingo, we appreciate you. Our lady out here, Kathy Lund, saying good morning, fam. Good to see you, Kathy. We appreciate you coming in and saying hello. Adam Bumgarner with a new picture
Kathy
here.
was also talking about the quarterbacks that might be in there. A healthy Lamar Jackson. Does he go in that top 5? Maybe. A healthy Deshaun Watson might.
More AFC guys.
A full steam Deshaun Watson. You got the richest contract in history. Might. Again, I don't think he'd be in the top 5 just because of other things. But you see what a quarterback was worth. What was that? 5 picks, including 3 number 1s for a guy who was going to who had sat out a year and was going to miss the majority of another one. Yeah. People are willing, and we're not willing to send a first round for a coach. Come on, guys.
I'm okay with the 1 first rounder. I'm okay with a 1 and a 3. The 2024 one is off the table in my books because if you bottom out next year, you are going to be in the quarterback hunt. And God, I would.
I don't for y'all's mental health. I don't want to see another team picking in the top 5 with your pick,
especially with the quarterbacks to the top of next year's draft. I think there's 3. Not right now, it's early, not to get too far drafted, and we're going to start making that move anyway at some point coming up here. But right now, if you're asking me, I think there are 3 blue chip talents in this upcoming class. And I would not consider Bryce Young a blue chip talent. It's just too much of an outlier as far as his size. And I don't think CJ Stroud is a blue chip talent. But next year, there could be 3 as well, and they're wide receiver and 2 quarterbacks. So it'll be interesting. But the blue chips this year, everybody knows Will Anderson, Jalen Carter. I also think Bijan Robinson is a blue chip talent because I'm comparing them against their positions, and I think he's a blue chip caliber running back. But beside the point, good morning from Adam Bumgarner said we should hire Jeff Saturday. Adam, no. Hopefully the Colts hire him just for the lulls, but no.
Yeah, I got a pretty good feeling Adam was tongue in cheek on that one.
Yeah, I agree. Miguel, good morning, fellas. Hope the Broncos get the same situation. Oh, we already got this one from Miguel. Good to see you, Miguel. We appreciate you getting double dipping here. Desert Creature saying Trevor Lawrence, $70 million a year. We're a ways off from that. I think if anything, hopefully we'll circle back around and Mahomes will get another contract even before that to bump everything up. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence is going to get a lot. And these elite quarterbacks, it's kind of crazy. We see these massive contracts that they're getting, but there's been studies done that the ones who are actually like truly elite difference makers are underpaid in comparison to what their impact is on the roster. So that's why those teams continuously win, even though they're paying big money for a lot of those quarterbacks. Hard to win a Super Bowl just because of the depth issues. When you have paying a quarterback that much money, but they are certainly valuable.
So what do we say? The quarterback's worth, you see the highest one's getting about 25% of the overall salary cap. Trevor Lawrence is 23 years old. 23. In 10 years, if he's 33 and still has another 6, 7, 8 years before him, 8 years, and that salary cap sitting at $400 million, it's possible. Eventually you think that there's going to be a market correction of sorts, but shoot, I said the NFL hit critical mass 5-6 years ago, and it's not slowing down anymore. So would it surprise me to see Trevor Lawrence make $70 million a year in one of his contracts before he's done? Not a bit. We're at 50 now.
Yeah.
70 for a 23-year-old kid. If he keeps his trajectory, he'll get it.
Not to go too far down the rabbit hole on this conversation, but I'm going to see quarterbacks paid big money. I would be more skeptical / trepidatious paying them big third contracts. We're talking about it right now. Look at how it's a young man league right now with the guys in the AFC killing it, and even the NFC. A lot of guys first, second contract. I don't know if besides Brady, third contract guys are not doing anything. You saw the Broncos pay Russell Wilson a massive third contract, and with how they're running these guys now more than we had, back in the 2000s, another one here that kind of concerns me is like Cam Newton, running around. There's those hits do add up. So I'm curious if we're going to talk about the market correction. You pay them big for that second contract, but that third one, maybe we're already looking to move elsewhere, because once they hit like 34 or 35, that the game has changed unless you are an absolute savant pocket passer.
A better comp for Trevor Lawrence, I think, would be Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, you could put in at his best with all the weapons and stuff around him, you could put a center block around his right foot and he could still beat you. Trevor Lawrence has that type of arm. He's got, and he's just a hell of an athlete too. So he's 23 years old, 5 years, at 28, if we're talking almost 28, his second contract, could he see $70 million a year? It's possible.
Especially with the Amazon money coming in here soon. So caps are going to explode. I mean, it's still going to be a percentage of whatever the cap was.
Even if it's 240 right now, even if it moves to 300 and you get a third of it, that's $90 million.
It's coming. It's coming. Greg Smith, top of the morning, Broncos country, Denver Broncos for life. Good to see you. Ryan Thompson, good morning, fellas in Broncos country. We appreciate the heck out of you. Coming in, our guy Jamal Killens, rocking the new profile picture. I don't remember the red hoodie there. So good to see you, Jamal. We appreciate you coming in. I hope you're doing well. Our guy Eclipse Stormborn saying happy Monday, Broncos country.
It's been a while. Welcome back.
Has. Yeah, peace and love from Philly. Good to see you. And we got Ryan Thompson saying, do you guys think the team brings back Alex Singleton? Scott, did you see that Alex Singleton got all pro votes from the...
Did you see that Alex Singleton was a top 5 linebacker in the NFL or at least top 10? I'd have to look it back up, but it was no lower than 6 or 7 by PFF. Yes, I bring him back. Again, he's an unrestricted free agent. So if the Jacksonville Jaguars want to come and give him Foye Oluokun money at $15 million a year, bye, thank you. You were awesome. But what was he on? 1.2, 1.5 maybe? A vet minimum type?
Yeah.
Double his money. I'd send him a $3 million contract in a freaking heartbeat. He's a beast on special teams too. $3 million? Can we double your money, Alex? What do you think? 2-year deal, $6 million, 3 guaranteed. That's basically a 1-year, $3 million contract. Okay. 7. Here's 2 years at 7 with 3.5 guaranteed. Yep. Yes, I would absolutely bring him back on a deal like that where I'm doubling his money again, which still isn't much. But again, see what somebody else does. You never know what somebody else is going to do. Again, Foye Oluokun, he was great. Yeah, he got a $15 million a year deal from the Jags. Mm-hmm. Okay. No, you're not matching that. Anything under 5, I'm signing the dude.
Yeah, I think he's going to get about a 3-year, $15 million contract, personally, with what he paid this year.
Get him with 10 guaranteed. It's basically a 2-year, $10 million deal. I'd be okay with that.
I think that's what his market will stack up as.
In the bucket against your salary cap.
Yeah, and just talking here, Miguel coming in here. I know he's been a big fan of coverage linebackers wanting out there. What a terrible weekend for people who think the Broncos linebacker position is horrible in coverage, because my God, I haven't seen as many linebackers get abused in space ever. The mesh concepts, the drag routes, crossing routes. You had Chanabuma being absolutely just destroyed in coverage. You had Eric Kendricks, who's been a really good coverage linebacker for the Vikings, getting obliterated. You had, there's even more teams here with terrible linebacker play. Just the linebacking in coverage in this one was systematically targeted and exposed this week. Besides one team, there's only one team that I thought the linebackers played excellent in coverage, and it's a team that's been that way for years now. Is it because of the coaching? Is it because of the players? Probably more of the players than the coaching, but still. 49ers are about the other team that sucked with that. Poor Cody Barton. God, he was absolutely abused by Kyle Shanahan in that Seattle game. But the one team who I thought the linebackers played pretty well was the 49ers. Dre Greenlaw and the Fred Warner, probably the best coverage linebacker doing football. It's not because they're the best athletes in the world. The way they see the game, the way they process, and the way they communicate, chef kiss now. They have incredible investments on that defensive front. Makes everybody a little bit easier, but that's just how the NFL is right now. Not a lot of teams are very good with a coverage in space, and there is probably 6 or 7 linebackers in this week. They're going to have to see therapy after this week of play because they were just that outright abused. It was ugly.
Please run the ball. I want to hit somebody.
Yeah.
And I don't, again, you want to get linebackers in coverage if you're an offensive coordinator. That's your job. How do I single these guys out? The one that concerns me more is when they're missing tackles.
Yeah.
There was a key. We're talking about, Muma was on there. One of our guys, because of this show, we when I hear him, it's like a dog whistle. I perk up. He missed a key tackle, got dragged for a first down. Those are the big ones there. And again, it was hard to play defense this weekend, period. Unless you're unless you're AFC North, who still knows how to play defense. It was tough to play. So it was tough to play defense. I mean, we were 60 points a game almost every game.
Mm-hmm. And the other one here, just for my anti-linebacker rhetoric, how about those Giants playing 0 linebacker defense for all those plays on the defensive side? They're putting more defensive backs out there and more pass rushers and saying, you know what, we're not going to play a single bleeping linebacker. And they end up winning the game. Not an amazing defense out there, but pretty darn wild to see a team go that far.
I have a question for you. Do you think there should be division protection in the playoffs, meaning you can't play a divisional opponent in the first round?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just you play where it's slotted. I think there's already a little too many rules in there. Anyway, I think adding the 7th team was a mistake also. So I'd
rather have swapped, I mean, unless if it's close, maybe one spot here, one spot there. I'd rather see interdivision matchups than than the third time somebody's playing each other. I would have rather seen Bills, Ravens, Bengals, Dolphins than the rematches again. They ended up being pretty good games, but I don't know. I'm kind of an anti-playoff person anyway, but it's like these guys have already played twice. I want to see some new matchups. That's what the playoffs are for. Anyway, just a thought.
If it would be anything, I'd be asking the team with the best seed if they would prefer that or not. Because I think that if you earn the better seed, you should earn the right to play the worse team. So if that ends up being a divisional matchup, then it is what it is. Carson Hanner saying, do you think we hire a coach by this weekend? God. I'm going to go with yes. I think the Broncos.
Think it's a possibility. Yeah.
I think it's a possibility. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, this is the week. They've already had some of their Zoom interviews. Now they can do their in-person interviews. Greg Penner says he's an impatient man. And the Denver Broncos, through the cycle that I've been through with y'all, don't have to wait on anybody else. Mm-hmm. The Jaguars had to wait and see who they were getting turned down before people were even interviewing. The Broncos seem to be at the front of the queue because it is a premier job in the NFL. NFL head coach is a premier job, period. And then there's different tiers of franchises. The Denver Broncos are a premier job. Will they get their pick of a guy? Maybe. And if they do, can they get that done this week? I think it's a possibility. I do. I think it's a possibility.
The money the Broncos have is a big bonus. We didn't even talk about this when we talked about the Chargers earlier. I guess circling back to this, but the Broncos, with their ownership group, are the richest ownership group in football. The Chargers are probably the poorest in the Spanos family out there. So that's one that you want to watch out for. There's been a lot of Chargers insiders, talking about like, would the Chargers even be close to paying Sean Payton what he's wanting to pay, and then also pay to fire Brandon Staley? Probably not. So that's what some Chargers insiders have been hinting at. So we'll see there, but that money matters, and why it matters also for the Broncos. It's obviously there's no cap on what you can pay the coaching staff, but it's the facilities, it's the nutritionists, it's the training, it's paying the coaching staff around that coach. I mean, if I was a big shot head coach and I was getting paid a lot, I'd also want to have enough money from my team to be like, we can hire anybody we want. The only reason people aren't coming here is because they're under contract with other teams or they don't want to come here. And being able to pay, it's one of the big reasons that you Colorado fans probably remember this, but Mel Tucker left Colorado for Michigan State because he could pay, I think it was like an extra $4 or $5 million to his coaching staff with the Big Ten money versus what the Pac-12 had allotted for the coaching staffs out there. So what you can pay the coaching staff, it definitely has a trickle down for how rich the ownership group is. And that can make the Broncos also intriguing for a coach like Payton, who has an idea of who he wants to bring in. So I mean, paying your coordinators, head coaches money, and paying your head coach, quarterback money. We're we're entering that realm with the Broncos with how much money they have. So it will be interesting.
I want to circle back on this again, just with the playoff talk. Adam's saying, but that's not fair. We're talking about, would you like to see some divisional protection in there? I said I would think about it for sure. So, but that's not fair if you get a higher seed and still have to play someone with a better record. The one I just threw off the top of my head on this one was a 3 versus 6 with Cincinnati, Baltimore versus 2 versus 7, Buffalo, Miami. You switch those and you get Buffalo, Baltimore, and Cincinnati, Miami. You go 3-7 versus 6-2. That's not a huge difference. And maybe that better record is because we're in a tougher conference. Tougher division. We have to play Cincinnati and the Bengals and Ravens have to beat up on each other. We talk about how tough the AFC West is. Like, you got to serve, or was supposed to be. You got to fight, get out of this. We lose these games, we beat up each other, and now we just got to play each other again. Well, maybe our record would have been better if we didn't have to play in this division. Now we got to play a divisional opponent just to advance again. So, again, I think it's worth exploring. I'm not saying do it this way. Just an idea. Just an idea.
Yeah, 100%. And as we start to wrap things up here, we got Alessandro coming in saying center should be a top priority. We can put Cam Fleming at right tackle. Also need a left guard. It sounds like the Broncos might also be on the left tackle market if they don't. If Garrett Bowles doesn't agree to a restructure, it sounds like they're going to be pretty aggressive with pushing that. Right now, I'm just curious what scheme we're going to run. If it's going to be outside zone, it's going to be a lot of different body types and skill sets than the power scheme of a Jim Harbaugh kind of guy. So we'll be curious to see that, and then what free agency looks like. Guys are going to be cut. Guys are going to be signed before they even hit free agency. So try not to get myself too far ahead of that. Two of the guys that I was had circled as the names that I was really excited for this upcoming cycle were Elton Jenkins and Jack Conklin, and they signed deals within 4 hours of each other or something, and then they're both off the market. Well, there goes my top 2 guys. But we'll see how it plays out. I agree with you. I think Scott might disagree with me on one of these takes here, but I would be very happy to pay Cam Fleming swing tackle money, good swing tackle money. I think he can play 4 spots on the offensive line. He was one of your best run blockers this season, and he's got size, and he's not an amazing pass protector. He got beat up by Max Crosby. Most people got beat up by Max Crosby this season, and I still think a lot of the sacks were as much on the quarterback as the offensive line. So I'd be happy to bring back Cam Fleming in top level swing money and have him compete. And then if you have an injury, I feel okay with him there. I think he got a bad rep this season. The other one here that I would be interested in bringing back for cheap, super cheap, would be Graham Glasgow as your swing interior guy. He can play all 3 interior spots. He's a guy who's very well liked in that locker room as well. And if you can pay him, 7th offensive line money in there, I wouldn't be against it at all, especially because you have so much leverage against him right now with his contract with a very low dead cap for moving on from him. So I wouldn't mind bringing those 2 back. Quinn Miners obviously penciled in a right guard. Then you have questions at left guard, left tackle, starting center, starting right tackle. Just get the best guys in there after that. You're bringing the floor up with those guys first, and then hopefully just bringing the best players possible. Somebody mentioned it earlier, having all the offensive guys compete this year. I think that's obviously a little bit not the total reality here, but I'm not against it. There should be more competition in that room anyway, and bringing those guys I think would help that room a bit. And also I thought Graham Glasgow played much better there than Lloyd Cushenberry did earlier this season. So I wouldn't be totally against that if the contract was cheap.
Okay, that was a long one. So I'm going to start with the one you said I might not agree with you with, which was Cam Fleming. I think Cam Fleming, much like Alex Singleton, played better than he was being paid. He was a $1.2 million guy also. Mm-hmm. Is he okay as your 3rd or 4th offensive tackle, double his money at $2.5 million? Yes, he is. Mm-hmm. I would bring him back and have him on the roster as part of my 8-man actives on game day. I'm hoping I don't necessarily need to have him as a starter, but he's a hell of an insurance policy for cheap. So yes, Graham Glasgow is going to have a $3 million dead cap hit. So he's going to take $3 million if you waive him and then re-sign him. So he would end, let's say we sign him to 2. You've got a $5 million cap hit on him. I just soon eat the 3, and I want better. I do. I want more than him. Yes, he can play, but was he good enough when he was out there? Not for me.
Yeah,
I think I can do better with a 3rd-round pick, a 4th-round pick. I can get some mobility at the position. Again, you were talking about scheme this and scheme that. And I said, well, the scheme for me is I want guys who can hold up at the point of attack who are mobile. I know that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
They're not impossible to find in the draft. And I think I could do better than what I saw from Graham Glasgow this year pretty easily. Yes, he can do these things, but was he doing them well? He was doing them better, but that's a relative statement. Cushenberry wasn't playing very well. Glasgow's not going to get better. He's on his way backwards. He's as good as he's ever been, and he's probably going to get a little bit worse moving forward. So I would move on from Glasgow and find someone else who would have the versatility to move inside, outside, or center guard. But I would absolutely bring Fleming back on a $2.5 million deal.
Yeah, and how the money works out, you could probably extend him and lower that dead cap it even more, and then be easy to sign. You probably need a Graham Glasgow type of player to be your first guy off the bench on the interior, or second guy off the bench that can play center and guard. I mean, if you're playing backup, and this is the Calvin Anderson story here, much better at left tackle than right tackle, but he's a backup caliber left tackle. Well, there's not much value out there for if you can only play singular position on the offensive line as a backup. Now, if you are a god level prospect and absolutely incredible and a starter no matter what, specifically at the center position, where the body type that you can get away with there is different than the other spots, then okay, you can get away with playing one spot. But if you are borderline at all, you better cross-train across that line, because you are not going to make a career in the NFL playing one single spot. You're going to have to be able to get out there and play multiple spots.
I think the hope would be that you can have Wattenberg take a step up from year 1 to year 2 to replace Glasgow. That's the hope. That's the hope. We've seen guys take those leaps as professionals. I know he's older, but as professionals, can he be better? Yeah, he can. Can he at least be as good as Glasgow was on a 6 whatever round he was, 5th, 4th, on a cheap contract with less money? Yeah, I think he can. That's what you're hoping for going into camp. Now, if it doesn't work out that way, I use August to go find me another player. If that was my plan going in. Jan Bergmans comes in and says, "Hey guys, fan from the Netherlands here. Well, welcome. Broncos country is not a geographic location, is the state of being. Do you think the front office would consider using Wilson in a trade scenario for Sean Payton?" Might be Jan, actually, with that coming in from the Netherlands. So, no, you can't. Just because of the way the salary cap works in the NFL, you can't trade Russell Wilson this year, because the money that you've already paid him would all go into this year's salary cap, and you would have about $100 million, and you'd have to cut players and play with 30 players on your team. So that's an exaggeration, but because of the way the salary cap is, you can't trade him. It just couldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. Would they? I don't know if you're allowed to use players in this. We've talked about this before. Can you throw in a player in a deal for Sean Payton? Maybe, but it wouldn't be Russell Wilson. Yeah. Appreciate the comment.
Yeah, 100%. And Lord of Liberty coming in here saying Wattenberg actually a decent run blocker. I thought he was okay in preseason and wasn't as impressed in the regular season. The other thing here with Wattenberg is that he was a draft pick under the previous offensive line coach in Butch Berry. And then as soon as Butch Berry was moved on from, Wattenberg didn't see the field again. Instead, the Broncos played Quinn Bailey at left guard in the Broncos' best running performance of the season, playing there at left guard with Cam Fleming at left tackle and the likes of Billy Turner at right tackle. So I'm not sure if you talk about Wattenberg taking a step up. My understanding is Wattenberg was pretty, not a hand-picked guy, but somebody that Butch Berry really liked. And now it's a new offensive coordinator coming in, or offensive line coach coming in, with how poor Wattenberg was this season. I think he's going to be 26 years old next year as well. So I don't have a lot of hope for Wattenberg, but we'll see how it plays out.
Colin Wood says the Saints can't afford to pay Russ. Yes, they can, because the Broncos already have.
Yeah.
So his base salary, Russell Wilson's base salary, is $8 million next year. $8 million. His cap hit, people talk all the time about moving on from Russ. His cap hit's only 22 this coming year. He's cheap, relatively speaking. It accelerates moving forward, and because of what it accelerates to, you can't move on from him this early in the contract. But talk about a team-friendly deal, restructure this, restructure that. He already did. At $22 million, it's low. He's got a low cap hit for this coming season.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. It's the guarantees on the back end of the deal that make it tough for Denver to trade him. Clyde Behrens coming in here. Iowa fans, we always appreciate that. And Quinn Miners has a tendency to whiff on pass protection too. Yes, he does. He's pretty amazing in space, and the power and athleticism that you see, and especially in pulls and outside zone and whatnot. Pretty obvious that he's a plus player, has the potential to be a plus player there, but his pass protection still needs work. He has a tendency to get over his skis a little bit and lunge for guys rather than trusting his technique and playing, letting guys come into him. And once he's leaning forward, that he loses his balance, and then a guy can get around him. So, he does have a tendency right now to whiff on pass protection. Coming from Wisconsin Whitewater, second year in the league, something you hope he improves on. But you're correct. Right now, I'd say he's a average to below average pass protector, but he has good length, good movement skills, good run blocker, and he played through injury this season. So hopefully another season working on that, he'll be trending in the right direction. But if we had a much better offensive line and he was getting beat sometimes, we'd be talking more about this. But he's probably your best player on the line going forward next season with how it's set up. So it's something to watch, but not something to harp on.
When we're talking about age, Quinn just turned 24.
Yeah.
Second year in the league. He'll play in his third year of the league at 24 years old. So there's plenty of development still left to be there. I think you like what you've seen so far.
Yeah. 100%. Well, we started a little bit late, but it's already 8:30 here, so I think we're going to start to wrap it up for you guys out here. Obviously, not too much news on the Broncos side of things. The other big one, I don't think we had a chance to talk about it too much, but the Broncos getting some more All-Pros. I'm going to add this one because it's technically true. It's definitely deceitful, but it's true. Patrick Surtain II, the first time ever, first team All-Pro for both the NFLPA and the All-Pro lists. No cornerbacks ever had that honor before. So congrats to him. Now, this is the first year ever we've had the NFLPA first or All-Pro list. So it's never had a chance to happen before, but he makes it on first team All-Pro for both of them. Sauce Gardner and him, first team AP All-Pro. Darius Slay and him, first team NFLPA All-Pro. So congrats to Patrick Surtain. First team All-Pro, first one ever to be both teams. You also had Justin Simmons making second team All-Pro, so congrats to him. Missing 5 games. Pretty darn incredible, leading the NFL in takeaways. I did the math here. I think he had, 5 or 6 interceptions and then 3 forced fumbles. Nobody else had that accumulation of forced fumbles and interceptions. So congrats to him on that. I don't consider a fumble recovery a forced turnover. That's just, somebody else making the play and then you getting it there. So congrats to Justin Simmons on that. And then we talked about earlier, Alex Singleton getting some first team All-Pro or getting some All-Pro votes as well. So congrats to him. 6 interceptions. Thank you, Michael. 9 total forced takeaways. So pretty incredible for Justin Simmons. I didn't think he also played his best year to start the season. Obviously, he had the knee injury, which slowed him down, but I thought his run defense and tackling was not great early on, and it improved as the season went on. So hopefully that'll be a little bit better next year. But shout out to Patrick Surtain II, Justin Simmons, and Alex Singleton. Broncos getting their first team All-Pro vote since 2016 when they had 3 make it on the defensive side.
Michael coming in with the star saying, great show today. Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. And Lauren's coming in with one of these questions that always make me think that you're just a huge soccer fan. So why are the Broncos taking so long to put a team together again? Lawrence, what are you talking about, man? Their team's still playing. All these guys are still under contract. There's no available free agents, and there hasn't been a draft. What are you talking about? They can't bring anybody in. So they haven't cut anybody yet. It's the 2022 season is still going. So that's the transfer window in soccer is wide open right now. It's and Todd Bowley, Dodgers owner, Chelsea owner, spending money like a crazy man. But you can't do anything yet. The season's still going.
100%. Zach Powers coming in saying Cody Mock from North Dakota State would be a good left guard prospect to look out for. He was doing gymnastics on the field this year. Scott, you're going to love Cody Mock. He is North Dakota State, played hockey and football up there. And I don't think he's got the length that's going to keep him at left tackle. His run blocking is good. His pass protection needs a lot of work. But he looks like a North Dakota State hockey player more than a football player. He's got really long red hair, and he's missing his 2 front teeth. I mean, he's an interesting dude, a lot of personality. Would be a lot of fun for that Broncos team. I think he's probably going to go somewhere from pick 40 to 60. So I don't think the Broncos are going to be in the market for him with where they currently pick. But really fun player, no doubt, and one that deserves a shout out. Just I wouldn't take him in the first round, and I think he's gone before the Broncos pick in the third.
Who else came out of there recently?
Billy Turner.
It was who was it?
Billy Turner's from North Dakota State.
Yeah, but it was more recent than that. I thought it was Matt Waletzko, but he was North Dakota. So there was another. It wasn't Miners. Was it Radins? Was Dylan Radins from there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I remember there being another Senior Bowl guy that was there. So has done okay. Dylan Radins was a pretty good player. So very interested to see him. I'm looking forward to the Senior Bowl. I'll be going down there next week. No, 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, I'll be on my way down there.
Yep. And Colin saying our gymnastics an important part for offensive linemen. I'm here for all the cross-trained offensive line as possible. The defensive linemen who are doing, UFC stuff with working their hand and balance. And especially if you're coming for Iowa offensive linemen, almost all of them have cross-training in wrestling as well. There's an absolutely incredible video of, I've probably referenced it here multiple times, but Tristan Wirfs wrestling Tyler Linderbaum in the Iowa heavyweight championship, and Tyler Linderbaum flipping Tristan Wirfs and pinning him and winning that matchup, and Linderbaum just going absolutely insane. So
I think you'd be pretty impressed. Who was a center from Alabama that was doing back handsprings or something? Remember? But I think if I saw a 6'4", 300-pound guy that could drop down into a split and do a back handspring, I'd be really interested in watching him play football.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darius Levin, he's missing his 2 front teeth. Yeah, go look up Cody Mock. He's a fun-looking dude. Came in as a tight end.
To clarify on coaching-wise, why is it, again, and I say, why is it taking so long? Who's are you getting left behind? There's in-person interviews are allowed to start tomorrow, so you haven't been allowed to bring anybody other than Sean Payton at this point. All of the coaching jobs might not be open yet, so all of the the coaches could be waiting a little bit as well. But this season hasn't ended. As far as some of your targets, you wouldn't be allowed to hire them anyway with some of these guys that are still have jobs. So, again, are you falling behind somebody? What's your reference point? You mentioned, why is it taking so long? Compared to what? Nobody's hired yet. We just started this process. Ethan always coming in for us. Says, great show, gents, in Broncos country. Great double win for Chelsea yesterday. Mikhail Modric. I mentioned Chelsea spending a lot of money. They just bought out the contract of a guy for about $100 million. That's how it works. When we talk about Sean Payton, that's how soccer works. You got to come up with a deal with the person and the team, and then do it. So it actually becomes a lot of fun. So yeah, the Blues had a decent day yesterday.
Yeah, they definitely did, and we're having a decent day. We're gonna get on out of here. Appreciate everyone coming in. Thank you, Ethan, for the 50 pounds. Appreciate you so much. Sorry to get the Chad Muma dig in there. I just saw him getting beat, and I was like, somewhere. I know that definitely bummed about that. It's Scott as well, but appreciate you guys coming in. We're going to get on out. Hope everyone has a great Martin Luther King Day. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at BFB_pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. And as the ticker says underneath there, subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for everybody for joining us today, for the contributions that everybody came in. Again, if you're not in a position to do that, click the thumbs up on the way out. Any sort of reaction. We got a care react coming in from Michael Ronquillo. We got a wow react coming in from Tim Durr, all the hearts and the likes as well. We appreciate everyone. If you have any questions or whatnot, like I said, hit us up on Twitter. And then Michael's saying tomorrow's a big day for the interview with Sean Payton for the Broncos. Very big day indeed. We'll see what happens.
In LA. That makes me a little nervous. In LA.
They're already showing that they'll do what they need to do to help him out. He probably has to do some stuff on Fox. Also, did you see Tie-Gate yesterday? You know what I'm talking about.
I did. He wore an orange and blue tie on there. I'm telling you, when I did TV stuff, I used to absolutely think about what I was wearing. Freud says there are no accidents or coincidences or whatever Freud says. That was interesting for sure. I absolutely paid attention to the colors I wore when I was doing TV spots.
Yeah.
Michael, thank you very much. Ethan, thank you. All of you coming in with the support. Happy Monday to everybody. And again, enjoy the day of a true American hero in Martin Luther King Jr.
100%. You guys have a great one. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. Have a good one. Go Broncos.